Shalom, dear brothers and sisters. Today I come to you with a special topic. Before talking about this topic, I need to tell you something special. That is, this topic is based on a nation and a country that is being talked about a lot these days. After this topic, there may be a possibility of unexpected attacks or backlash, judging by what I am going to talk about. Especially regarding the facts discussed in this topic, the websites or links are mentioned below this video. You can go through them and search for more information. Even though I said that there could be backlash, we must tell the truth. We need to speak the truth. This is not meant to hurt other nations or attack other religions. The reason is that this topic is very important because we are talking about our history, as well as things that will happen in the future. Okay, let's move on to the topic. What is this topic? The topic is, are Sri Lankans and Jews our relatives, or are they our brothers? What is the relationship between them that can be seen through written or living evidence? In recent times, this matter has become a subject of great discussion, and now it can be seen very clearly. Actually, are Sri Lankans and Jews brothers? Yes, indeed, there is a lot of evidence for it, as well as biblical written evidence that we can see today. Who are these Jews? That means there are 12 tribes of Israel. One of these 12 tribes is the tribe of Judah, also known as the Jews. Their history dates back 4,000 years. Today, many people think that because Israel was re-established after 1948, and because the Jews arrived after suffering under Hitler's persecution, people in the world think that they came very recently, or that they are immigrants. That is the opinion of many. Let's look at the truth. More than 3,400 years ago in Egypt, these 12 tribes, including the tribe of Jews within those 12, were known by the name of Israel. That is, the 12 children of Jacob. The primary name given to these 12 children is Israel. Just like a family with the surname Pereira having 3 or 4 children, for example. God promised these 12 tribes of Israel that he would give them a nation, and the name of that nation is Israel, which still exists today. So, this country is where the people of Israel and the Jews lived, which is about 3,500 years old. We have written confirmation and evidence regarding this. This is the entry into Israel, crossing the Jordan River to enter the land of Israel, as written in the book of Joshua, chapters 3 and 4. That is, in the book of Joshua, chapter 4, verses 19 to 20, we can see what is written. This is evidence written more than 3,500 years ago. Today, we can see the written and living evidence within this generation of Jews in Israel. Likewise, we can see written evidence about the beginning of the reign of King David, who was a Jew more than 3,000 years ago. That is, from 2 Samuel 5 verse 1 onwards, we can see the living evidence today within Jerusalem. The ruins of the city of David can still be seen. Regarding this first temple, which is about 3,000 years old, we can see evidence from the Bible. In the book of 1 Kings, chapter 6, verse 1, it is written in this manner. After this, what we can see specifically is the second temple. This temple, which is 2,500 years old, was renovated by King Herod during the 20th and 19th centuries BC. We can see written evidence of this in the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verse 20. The visual evidence of this can still be seen today at the Western Wall, or rather, the stone wall that belongs to the ancient temple, its inner courtyard, and every other single part. All of these structures were built before 45 years ago. At that time, there was no sign of Islam on earth, and there was no country called Palestine either. The reason for that is that Islam has only been around for a short period of 1,400 years from its inception to the present day. However, Israel, or rather the Jews, or the religion called Judaism, has developed and has been present for around 4,000 years. Now, the fact that I am telling you these things is not the most important thing for you to just listen to. You should also go and check all of these facts on the internet to see whether they are true or not. Check how old the religion of Islam is and how old the Jewish religion is, or since when the Jews have been present. That means it was 600 years after the birth of Christianity that people started talking about Islam or Prophet Muhammad. Even during that time, Jews lived within Israel and Jerusalem. We will make a separate video about that topic. If we look back to before the year 2026, the birth of Yeshua, or Jesus, took place. He was a Jew. We can find written evidence that his father and mother were also Jewish. That evidence comes from the books of the New Testament in the Bible, Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 17, Luke chapter 2, verse 21, Luke chapter 2, verse 39, and Matthew chapter 27, verse 37. Through all of these passages, it is proven that Jesus, or Yeshua, as many call him, was a Jew, that he performed Jewish rituals, lived within Jewish culture, and that many events took place with Jerusalem as the center. If so, how do the Jews become our relatives? We already told you that there are 12 tribes of Jews. Similarly, regarding these 12 tribes, the book of Genesis, which is the first book of the Bible, shows us that they possess 12 banners or flags. That means these 12 tribes, the 12 children, had 12 flags. We can find written evidence regarding these flags in the book of Numbers, which was written more than 3,000 years ago. It is shown to us in the book of Numbers, chapter 2, in the second section. If so, what is the banner of the tribe of Judah? In the book of Genesis, which was written 3,500 years ago, in chapter 49, verse 9, Jacob, who is the father of these Jews, assigns an emblem to that tribe. While he gives an emblem to every tribe, the emblem given to the Jews is the lion, both in name and meaning. Furthermore, it is because of this that the Jews were the ones who protected the temple. Not only that, it was this tribe of Jews that offered sacrifices and offerings to God. Therefore, to symbolize them, 2 banners or flags featuring a lion were placed in front of the Ark of God inside the temple. This is described to us in 1 Kings, chapter 7, verse 29. About 2,000 years ago, the Romans conquered this land of Israel and Jerusalem. Later on, following this conquest, many Jews who lived in Israel fled to different parts of the world. Moreover, a mass slaughter of innocent Jews was carried out by the Romans in a horrific manner. At that time, to tell the truth, there was no Islamic religion and no country called Palestine on the face of the earth. If we then look at the Roman expansion, or rather the establishment of Roman ruling authority across these lands, during the period between 70 AD and 135 AD, these Jews scattered into Europe, North Africa, and also into Asia, because the land of Israel fell under Roman imperial rule. Therefore, remember that these events took place more than 2,000 years ago.
At that time, when the fleeing Jews went and lived in different countries, they intermarried with the people of those respective countries, embracing various races and languages. Also, do not forget that Jews lived in Israel throughout history. We can see clear evidence of this from old video footage and photographs. That is to say, even before the recent creation of the state known as Palestine and prior to that, during the era of British rule, a very substantial population of Jewish people lived within Israel. In our next video, we will show you how this entity called Palestine originated, and who exactly constitutes the group of people known as Palestinians living there. Does biblical evidence exist for this, or are there contemporary, living testimonies? We will present all of that information to you in the next video. Regarding these dispersed people, the Bible shows us where they reside. Isaiah 11 verse 11 mentions that they are living in certain islands. Furthermore, this series of verses reveals that they live in various countries and locations as a dispersed nation. Additionally, it specifically points out an island, and Sri Lanka is indeed such an island. Moreover, it is revealed to us that in the end times, God will bring them back to Jerusalem. Even today, if you look at the flag in Jerusalem, Israel, it is not just a white flag with 2 blue stripes and a star. In reality, it is a flag featuring the depiction of a lion. That is what can be identified as the Jerusalem flag. We can observe this in carvings, and it is also clearly shown in the carvings on the gates of the temple that existed over 2,000 years ago. Not only that, our Sri Lankan flag also includes the symbol of the dispersed lion family. Although it cannot be said with absolute certainty whether lions actually lived in our country, the Jews still locate their dispersed brethren today using these flags, specifically through the lion flag. You might think, what kind of strange connection is this? Let's look further ahead. For instance, if you look at Iran, which was referred to as Persia back then, about 2,500 years ago, a Jewish queen named Esther was married to a Persian king named Ahasuerus. Even today, her tomb can be found in Iran. At that time, a significant population of Jews lived in Iran, and the community thrived there in a remarkable way. The reason for this is that even a Persian king like Nebuchadnezzar had forcefully brought Jews to Persia, which is present-day Iran. If you read the book of Esther, this context becomes very clear to you. Furthermore, you can easily research and study this on the internet. Similarly, just as we look at that era, the period of Esther 2,500 years ago, we also share a 2,500-year history connected to the arrival of the Aryans, specifically King Vijaya and a group of about 700 wise individuals skilled in various industries, as clearly documented in our history. So, where did King Vijaya arrive from? He came from a country in India called Sinhapura. The reason for this is that when the Aryans arrived, they established a kingdom in a specific region of India. This kingdom was known as Sinhapura. It was from this location that these Aryans, or rather, King Vijaya, arrived, bringing with them a force of nearly 700 men. Although Sinhapura cannot be seen today, the region we can see in its place is Gujarat. The word Aryan in the Iranian or Persian language means noble or honorable, implying someone possessing dignity. Similarly, in the Hebrew language, the term for Aryan is Ari, and Ari in Hebrew means lion. As an example of this, if you look at the old flag of Iran, the authentic flag from the dawn of its history, the symbol present on it is a lion holding a sword. However, in recent times, the Iranian regime removed this symbol from the flag. Not only that, if you look at why the people of Iran heavily support Israel today and why they wish to end this conflict, it is because many of them carry Jewish blood. Now, the connection between the Jews, the lion, the Persian lion, and the Sri Lankan lion might be somewhat clearer to you. When these Jews, or rather, the dispersed people who arrived with the Aryans, came to Sri Lanka, there was a specific location where they settled. In those days, they were not called Jews but Hebrews or Hebrew nationals. That was their designation. After they arrived in Sri Lanka, the name of the area where they settled can still be seen today. That place is Habarana. Hebrew, or rather the word Hebrew, implies a connection to the name Habarana, as it is believed to have originated from it. Similarly, there is a location name in Israel that is remarkably similar to the name Habarana found here in Sri Lanka. That name is Hebron. Hebron is known as the site where ancient Jewish settlements and the original inhabitants were historically located. Many believe that due to the settlement of these Hebrews in Habarana, they also contributed to the creation of Caesarea. Not only that, many state that they demonstrated their architectural expertise by creating a depiction of that Sinhalese lion family on Caesarea. Because Habarana and Caesarea are areas located very close to each other. I can see this clearly on this map. Now, we are discussing a history spanning 2,500 years. But is there an even older history shared between Israel and Sri Lanka, or rather, among Sri Lankans? Yes, we have clear evidence and proof regarding that. That is, during an excavation carried out by archaeologists in 2013 in the city of Haifa, Israel, they discovered a clay vessel. Its lid had been securely sealed. They confirmed that this clay vessel is more than 3,000 years old. After very carefully opening this clay vessel, they discovered that it contained cinnamon sticks inside. When tested by scientists, it was scientifically confirmed through DNA analysis that this was Ceylon cinnamon, or Sri Lankan cinnamon. There are mainly two types of cinnamon in the world, Cassia cinnamon and Ceylon cinnamon. Cassia cinnamon is bitter, lacks aroma, and is thick and coarse. On the other hand, Ceylon cinnamon, Sri Lankan cinnamon, is highly aromatic, sweet, and has a very delicate texture. Now, you might ask me if there is any evidence regarding this. Yes, just as this clay vessel was found, we can see textual evidence as well. You may have heard about the island of Tarshish. This island of Tarshish was spoken of over 3,000 years ago in the Bible. If you look at Exodus 30 verses 22 to 25, we see God commanding to bring sweet-scented cinnamon. Moses is commanded to take good, fragrant cinnamon to prepare an anointing oil. Similarly, 1 Kings 10 verse 22 shows us that King Solomon possessed ships of Tarshish. It is also shown that it took 3 whole years for these ships to travel to Tarshish. Why did it take 3 years? Because the journey was so difficult that a ship of Tarshish would only return to Israel after 3 years. So, what did they bring to Israel inside these ships of Tarshish? Ivory, peacock feathers, apes, gold, and silver are the things they brought back. All of these things are inherently found within our Sri Lanka. In the past, many Jews came and researched this to see if Sri Lanka is indeed this place called Tarshish. They discovered that Tarshish actually refers to the region of Gal as it was known back then. This is where the ships are said to have docked. If you look closely, I have shared links for these documents. Please don't just take my word for it, look into it yourself. Read the documents. Also, examine how scientists have visited Sri Lanka, investigated these matters, and proven these facts. However, Sri Lankans might not always accept this. The reason is that most Sri Lankans do not hold a highly favorable view of Jews. They think that discussing this openly might hurt the feelings of our Muslim brothers. This is not about causing hurt, but we must speak the truth. Furthermore, the Bible references Tarshish in Ezekiel 27 verse 12. As you know, there was a prophet named Jonah. The story of the prophet Jonah being swallowed by a massive fish is very famous. Jonah was actually attempting to flee to Tarshish. We can see this recorded in Jonah 1 verse 3. There are clear indications of a deep connection between King Solomon of Israel and Sri Lanka. At that time, many people from different parts of the world came to King Solomon to seek his wisdom and ask him deep questions, as clearly described in the Bible. Furthermore, one of the titles given to a Jew is the Lion of Judah. We can read about this in Revelation 5 verses 5 to 6. Similarly, our Sinhalese people also have a specific title, which is Sinhala or Sinhale, meaning the lions of the Hela people, or the lions living on the island. You may recall that I previously mentioned how God designated a place for the dispersed Jews, describing it as the islands. The Tamil community living in Sri Lanka are not entirely unrelated to this. Historical records in Kerala state that the Tamils of Jaffna have Jewish roots. The reason for this is that these Jews migrated to Kerala. To this day, clear evidence remains there in the form of synagogues and Jewish settlements. In ancient times, when Jews came to Sri Lanka by sea to trade in spices, they traveled via regions like Madurai and Kerala. It is recorded that they settled and intermarried within those areas before migrating to Sri Lanka. This explains why many people in Jaffna today possess a fair complexion and distinct physical features, distinguishing them as a separate group from other Tamils. Now, if we look at Kerala back then, we share a major connection with it. This is because when the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British sailed to Sri Lanka, they would first anchor their ships in Kerala, India, before continuing their journey to Sri Lanka. During those transitions, many people stationed or residing in Kerala migrated over to Sri Lanka. This explicitly included the Yemenite Jews, meaning the Jewish population that had originally come from Yemen and settled there. Furthermore, a very notable report concerning the arrival of these Yemenite Jews to Sri Lanka is provided to us by Nehemiah Gordon. Nehemiah Gordon is a world-renowned scholar with profound expertise in ancient manuscripts. He is an exceptionally distinguished individual who possesses a deep, masterful comprehension of the Torah. When you hear this account by Nehemiah Gordon, you will truly be astonished. I have provided the link to this below. Additionally, historical accounts in India mention that Thomas, one of the ultimate disciples of Jesus, Yeshua, visited Sri Lanka. It is explained that he arrived alongside Persian merchants. You can look into the evidence and specific details regarding this. As archaeological proof of this visit, a cross was discovered in Anuradhapura in 1912. This cross has been clearly dated to the 5th or 6th century. After Thomas returned to Madurai, he was martyred. Even today, the site of his martyrdom and related historical evidence can be found in Madurai. Furthermore, history shows that in 1492, Spain subjected the Jews to severe persecution and hardship. Jews were massacred in large numbers, and many were forced onto ships to work under brutal, slave-like conditions as rowers. During that historical era, the Portuguese and the Dutch, who also had complex interactions with these populations, ruled over our country. Over time, their influence spread across our country, from period to period. Not only that, they became part of the local administration and governance systems. The records indicate that the Jews who arrived through maritime trade or service lived primarily along the coastal belts of the island. During this era, many converted or integrated through marriages with local Sinhalese women, establishing communities in areas like Kandy and the surrounding regions. Many of their descendants are recognized today within the Burghers. When studying the DNA lineages of families resulting from historical Sinhala, British, Portuguese, Spanish, and Dutch unions, a notable percentage reveals explicit Semitic genetic roots. Among these lineages, surnames like de Fonseca, de Elwes, Van Dort, Diaz, Silva, Costa, Pinto, or Almeida are well known. Historical analysts state that these names trace back to Sephardic Jewish lineages. In some cases, these family names were later adopted as given names or surnames by local families. Furthermore, the 12th century traveler Benjamin of Tudela documented during his visit to Sri Lanka that over 3,000 Jews were living on the island at that time. Historical reports also mention the presence of a Jewish synagogue in Kalapidia, known as the Rotunda Synagogue. In later years, during the British colonial period, this building was repurposed as a government office. When we look at the historical architectural styles, strong parallels emerge between Israel and Sri Lanka, serving as physical evidence of ancient links. A primary example is Sigiriya, the magnificent palace complex constructed on a massive rock fortress. This complex was engineered in the middle of a dense forest. Similarly, if you travel to Israel, you will find Masada, the historic fortress built by King Herod atop an isolated rock plateau, featuring advanced structural designs. Scholars who have studied both sites note the close similarities in structural planning and implementation. If we look at recent times, the Sinhalese, the Burghers, as well as the Tamils, feel an extraordinary, deeply heartfelt connection and affection towards Israel. Because, when it comes to the deep-rooted influence or connection with these Jewish people, sometimes we do not know for certain whether their DNA is actually present within them. However, due to an extraordinary love and a profound passion that has arisen regarding them. Let's explore whether there are cultural connections between Jews and us. Yes, there are connections. For instance, looking at the Jews, their new year begins in April. Furthermore, out of their 7 major festivals, the first festival commences in this month of April, corresponding to the month of Nisan. Similarly, looking at Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese and Tamil New Year also begins within this month of April. In Israel, the time of the first harvest begins, which marks a significant part of their agricultural cycle. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, a core component of the Sinhala New Year revolves around agriculture, highlighting the start of farming activities. Additionally, both Sri Lanka and Israel achieved independence in the very same year, freeing themselves from British colonial rule. Israel gained independence on May 14, 1948, establishing modern Israel after its historic dispersion. Similarly, Sri Lanka gained independence on February 4, 1948, from the British. Furthermore, looking at the demographics of both nations, both the Jewish people and Sri Lankans are relatively small population groups in global terms. Moreover, when examining international IQ rankings, a very high percentage of intellectuals holding top positions globally are Jewish. Similarly, the second prominent group recognized for similar academic and intellectual capabilities contains Sri Lankans. This is evident in IQ comparisons where Israel often occupies top positions, followed closely by Sri Lankan demographics. Furthermore, looking at the physical sizes of these nations, both Israel and Sri Lanka are relatively compact countries. Both communities have deeply grounded historical populations despite their small geographic footprints. Furthermore, when analyzing their cultural values, as discussed previously, their main foundational pillar rests heavily on agriculture. Across the Bible, the primary focus for the Jews is agriculture. Similarly, looking at Sri Lankan culture, the foundational lifestyle of both Sinhalese and Tamil communities revolves entirely around agriculture. Every major cultural element is built upon ideas of land cultivation, just as we in Sri Lanka live by the cultural philosophy of the lake and the pagoda, the village and the temple. Wewe Dajbai, Gamai Pansalai, the Jewish people have a parallel concept. Within their domain, their kingdom of Israel, and their commandments, they hold the Modim, which refers to their appointed sacred festivals. Not only that, the Hebrew language of the Jews and the Sinhala language are remarkably close. If we look at the similarities, where we say Alma for mother, they say Imma in their language. When we say Eka, one, they say Ekad. When we say Naya, cobra, they say Nachash. Similarly, for father, in their linguistic tradition, it is expressed as Tath, which is beautifully close to our word Thatha. There are many such linguistic parallels, though I can only mention a few briefly. Even today in our ancient temples, you can spot star-shaped patterns embedded in carvings. This seven-pointed or hexagonal emblem is known as the Magen David or the Star of David, the ultimate symbol used by the Jewish people to represent their identity, nation, and the Kingdom of Israel. Historically, these Jewish people integrated very cordially and lived peacefully alongside the Buddhist community. They supported the Buddhist population immensely. This historical bond explains why, even today, when Israel faces adversity, our venerable Mahasangha and Buddhist monks take to the streets in solidarity. It is fully apparent that throughout generations, the Jewish people respected and protected Buddhist heritage while offering extensive support to the community. Many recognize that our Buddhist monks voice their support for Israel as an expression of historical gratitude and deep appreciation. Furthermore, our monks are well aware of the profound ancient ties shared with the Jewish people. If we look closer, we can still find centuries-old Jewish burial sites and tombstones inscribed with Hebrew characters right here. Despite this long historical presence, Jewish people have never forcefully claimed an inch of Sri Lankan land. However, a specific incident occurred recently in Aragon Bay. Jewish tourists sought a temporary space where they could gather for their religious worship. The number of Jewish arrivals had surged significantly after the pandemic, especially during a time when generic foreign tourism in Sri Lanka had completely stalled. Israel was actually the first nation to resume travel to our country. Visitors from Israel actively promoted Sri Lanka globally through a film titled Aragon Bay. Following the release of this film, tourists from all over the world were drawn to Aragon Bay, inspired by its scenic beauty and the film's powerful message to help a recovering nation. This widespread exposure brought global attention to the region's surfing culture, drawing massive crowds. Upon their arrival, Jewish travelers simply wished to observe their traditional prayers every Friday. To facilitate this, they set up a small temporary Chabad house. Unfortunately, certain provoked Muslim members of parliament opposed this setup, tabled a motion, and ultimately managed to shut it down completely. Is this a fitting way to show our gratitude? It appears these politicians acted out of an irrational fear that a growing Jewish presence would displace them, driving them to take extreme measures. Yet, as Sri Lankans, we continue to stand firmly in solidarity with Israel and the Jewish people. Furthermore, within family structures, deep mutual respect and tight bonds define Jewish households. Similarly, within Sri Lankan family dynamics, parents, children, and siblings maintain an interconnected domestic unit. In addition to these points, looking at the contribution of Jewish figures to our country, extraordinary examples emerge. Let us explore these instances today. A primary economic driver for Sri Lanka is the tea industry, which generates core national revenues. The individuals who introduced commercial tea cultivation and popularized it extensively within Sri Lanka were the De Worms brothers, who were prominent Jewish siblings. They pioneered the tea industry across the island. They also introduced commercial coffee planting to Sri Lanka. They were German-born Jewish entrepreneurs. Today, from whatever income you derive from tea, whether it's a small portion you consume or from international exports, the ultimate credit for establishing this sector goes entirely to the dedication of these Jewish brothers. Furthermore, let me address a question regarding international relations that many people discuss today. Some argue that Iran purchases our tea exports and is therefore our greatest trading ally. Dear brothers and sisters, just imagine for a moment, if the De Worms brothers had not brought commercial tea cultivation to Sri Lanka, we wouldn't have tea to export to Iran or even for ourselves. You can search for more comprehensive details regarding the contributions of the De Worms brothers on the internet. Similarly, another monumental figure who left a deep legacy within our domestic educational domain is Mary Museus Higgins. She was a German-born Jewish lady. This remarkable educator provided immense support toward uplifting local education. She was the pioneer behind Museus College, and she facilitated the establishment of multiple educational institutes across our island. She was a dedicated Jewish woman from Germany. Furthermore, when looking at historic personalities who embraced our cultural values, we find Venerable Nyanaponika Thera. He was a Buddhist monk of Jewish descent. He embraced the teachings of the Buddha and achieved global recognition as an accomplished Buddhist scholar, authoring extensive works. Another prominent figure who contributed immensely to industrial frameworks is Ulrich Plesner. He carried out remarkable engineering and design transformations across Sri Lanka's architectural landscapes, notably spearheading the development of the Ekala industrial estate in 1960. He was a master architect. Similarly, a well-known name heavily referenced in our academic reading materials is Leonard Woolf, a British-born intellectual. Many of his notable publications are actively studied across our academic curriculum today. He was a British Jewish civil servant and author. He spent significant years documenting and observing the cultural framework of our island. Now, despite these monumental historical, financial, and educational contributions by various Jewish figures over centuries, today, not a single square inch of land remains directly under their name in Sri Lanka. In recent history, clear indications began emerging that point directly to our long-lost ancestral lineages, showing that our genetic paths are deeply intertwined. Furthermore, following the geopolitical escalations of October 7 between Hamas and Israel extended nearly 40,000 employment opportunities for Sri Lankan workers. They stepped forward explicitly recognizing us as ancestral brothers. I urge all communities to reflect upon these historical facts with a clear mind. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. Dear brothers and sisters, this video might be watched by a Buddhist, a Tamil person, or a Muslim person. My dear brothers and sisters, if you are living in a good manner within our country, the Jews have never caused any trouble to us. Today, for the sake of other people's problems, the entire Muslim community has gathered and is speaking up on their behalf. But just think, if a problem occurs in our country, who is there to speak up on our behalf? No one. Furthermore, brothers and sisters, I must emphasize that not every Muslim brother and sister is against Israel. Many times today, we see that many Arab nations love Israel and stand up on behalf of Israel. Today, we see nations like Dubai, Kuwait, where many Muslim individuals hold positive views regarding Israel. They consider themselves descendants of Ishmael, meaning the children of Ishmael, who was a son of Abraham. Similarly, they consider the Jews to be the children of Isaac. I do not know where the people living in our country came from or from which direction they arrived. Within true Muslims, a sense of brotherhood arises toward the Jews of Israel. Dear brothers and sisters, rather than getting involved in these problems, what is most important for us is to live peacefully with everyone. Personally, I believe that Jews are our brothers. Whenever a Sri Lankan goes to Israel, they say, "This is our second homeland. This is our homeland." Throughout all the past periods of conflict, not a single Sri Lankan left Israel, because they love that country like their own life. Therefore, dear brothers and sisters, I tell you, examine this yourself. Without blindly dwelling only on what I have said, search for this information on the internet, study it yourself, and the truth will become clear to you. Shalom to all of you.